Let's say we did not want to use this map that was provided with the VR template. We could just delete everything from the scene, or we could choose a different map. Let's expand this. Here in VR template maps is the current level that we're on, just so we know where that is. And if we click down here on starter content, there are some maps included as well. This one, that environment isn't real. It's a picture projected. So I think this is for advertising, maybe for product placement. I'm not sure. Here's another one that was provided, a nice little table and chairs and a sky you could start with if you want to be floating around in the sky. What else? Okay, this one is nice. It looks like all the materials are on display, as well as some fire effects and stuff. This probably would have been a better way to show the different materials. Particle effects. If you want to see just the levels that are in your project, you can use filters, which I don't think appear by default. So I'll get rid of them and then show you how to add them. All right, pretend it was like this. Click here, and in the drop down, go to the top, Common Filters. And that will add all these filters, which I think you can customize which ones appear. And the one I use a lot is levels or static meshes. So if I wanted to see all the levels in the project, I would click on the filter button for levels. And here we can see all the ones that are in whatever folder we're clicked on. So if I click on content, we see all those levels, and I'll just go back to this one again. There are other ways to find your levels, but that's just one of them. All right, now say I wanted to start a new level from scratch, right? As I said, you could just delete everything from this level. Now don't right-click to start a level. You could do that, but you're only going to get a blank project. You can click on File, New Level, and then you're going to get some templates here: Open World, Empty Open World, Basic, and Empty Level. Now, Open World is huge. We can look at it for a second. For VR, I think this is just too much terrain. I have to increase the speed of my movement to even navigate. Otherwise, it would take days to get across this thing. Maybe it's not that big, but you know, for something like Skyrim, you could use some of these pieces of terrain. Let's try something else though. How about empty? Just an empty void of nothing. And the reason I'm not right now going to start from scratch is because creating a sky, I think I've forgotten how to do that. I'll have to do a different video all about the sky. It's not that easy. I'm going to add the environment light mixer window. And I thought if you just clicked all this stuff, you would get a sky. But no, alas, it is a freaky dark sky. It's not a night sky. It's just a messed up sky. At the end of the video, you'll see I did figure out how to do it. It's not that hard. So stay tuned if you want to know how to make a sky from scratch. It only takes like an extra couple seconds. All right, the other thing, we could go to a basic template for a new level. This is quite nice. You get a sky already made. And I don't believe this is a landscape. I think this is just a shape, maybe even like a cube that got scaled large. I think it has depth to it. Let's see. Yeah, that looks like a shape to me. That's another way, if you're making an indoor game inside of rooms, you can just use shapes. You don't have to add any landscape. And then you can just delete that from the basic level, the cube, and put in whatever you want. But you have a sky there. You could drop in a landscape as well. And like I said, we'll get into what all this different grid stuff means for a landscape later. In VR, you really probably don't want too huge of a map. Maybe you do, I don't know. And you could do the same thing here. You could drop in a landscape into this level. Now, a lot of development is solving mysteries and figuring things out. And if you did want a nice sky, for example, you could just see, how did they make this one? And mess around with stuff. Here I'm in the environment light mixer again, and it only has directional light and this sphere thing, and I don't know where that came from. I could find out. Skylight, sky sphere. We'll get into all this. I'm just showing like how you can inspect what's already provided to start learning as well. And what if I just clicked these different sky elements? Get some different layers of clouds. I'm just trying to refresh my memory, because at one point I did know most of this stuff. We'll get into it later. I probably shouldn't be doing this in this video, but I don't know. This is just the order of what goes through my head when I start using Unreal again. And anyway, at the end of the video, you'll see how to make the sky from scratch. I unearthed my notes about the settings for Unreal, my spiral notebook. So here are the settings that you need to make everything look good. These are the rendering settings. Okay, occlusion culling we want checked. Virtual textures we do not want. Okay, this, we're not actually using Lumen. This is all grayed out. That's okay, because we are not using Lumen. And we're not using Nanite. Not for VR. Allow static lighting, yes. Forward shading, yes. Vertex fogging, yes. Stereofoveation disabled, yeah. Instant stereo, we will leave checked. I have a note that if the shadows are jittering, to uncheck this, possibly, to fix that. But we'll leave it for now. We don't want bloom. We do not want ambient occlusion. We don't want motion blur. Now, most of these should be default, but I think ambient occlusion you will have to uncheck. Anti-aliasing, this is very important. Okay, the normal I think is MSAA and then 4x MSAA. And that should be fine, but I really do not like jagged edges. So I don't know, we'll get back to this. This TAA is pretty good. I might change this later. Next, let's go to Platforms, Windows, and here we can change a few things. Make sure SM6 is checked. There. And then this icon, I don't know how to make a .ico file, but this would be the icon for your game, I believe. So I have to figure out how to get the giant chipmunk there. One other thing we can touch on is in Edit Plugins, you can just see what your different plugins are. And a lot of these come with the VR template. You could have chosen a different template, first person, third person. They would have different plugins, but this is what we have. OpenXR is our VR plugin under virtual reality. And yeah, we're not going to get into it for now, but I do remember if you start a first-person game or a third-person game, you can add a VR plugin, I think, or it's very easy to add VR into it. So you can switch between, you know, using the little Manny character in a third-person game or being a VR character in the game or a VR player. Anyway, in this next segment, I'm just going to test my megalophobia by adding another large object on top of this one. But then I'm going to want to start further away, so I'm not too scared. What I'm going to do is delete the brick wall. I'm just selecting it in the viewport and I hit delete. That's all. And now I'm going to copy and paste the floor, Control C, Control V, and make sure I'm on the move tool up here. And I'm just going to drag the copied floor. You want to be careful that it's not overlapping. There's a way you can align these things. I'll show you later. For now, I'm just going to eyeball it. If they overlap, you might get like twitching materials. But for now, this is fine. I don't want a gap there, that's for sure. Unless we want to test vertigo as well, we could do that. But there's one problem. I won't be able to teleport into that area because the teleport area is defined by, what was it called? Nav mesh bounds volume, I think. That's what it is. So I'm going to click on that. Yeah, see this outlined area is where I can teleport. I don't know why they had set it out into the sky as well, but okay. Let me scale this wider to encompass my new area and just slide it over. That should be good. Now I'll just hop into VR and see if I can teleport over there. All right, I'm using snap turn. I hope that's not too nauseating for you. I mean, snap turn is supposed to be preventing nausea in VR, but I don't know for viewing it on a screen. Anyway, you can see I was able to teleport into the expanded area. Everything looks good. If something doesn't seem right with your lighting in the scene, you can always try to build the lighting, and that might fix the problem. I'm not that familiar with this because previously I used real-time lighting. I didn't really build the lighting too much. But I think this will bake the shadows so that then if we moved a cube, the shadow would not move with it because it's been baked onto the material of the floor. Interesting stuff. We'll explore that later in maybe a lighting video. Let's proceed with this. Since we have more space now, I'm going to move the player start farther away or further away, further or farther away from the giant sphere. Because like I said, I'm going to put something else on top of it. So it's more of a megalith. But for now, let's actually visit materials again really quick, just for fun. I'm going to drop this forest floor, whatever this is. You can see the scale is way too big. I don't think the plants and debris are supposed to be that large. So I double-clicked to open the material. And this is a user-friendly material from Megascans. So I can use these parameters to adjust the tiling in the X and Y direction. And that's going to scale the pattern. And I'm sure there's a more clever way to scale it. I'm just going to eyeball it for now. That, I don't know about that. You can also type in those boxes. You can just type a number in there instead of dragging to scroll. I don't know. Does that look good? Or is it stretched? Yeah, I've got to find out what is the clever way to do this aspect ratio. I mean, I'm just slapping materials onto whatever objects were in the scene. This one is pretty stretched out and big. And don't forget to save your material in the materials window. And because Quixel Bridge is going away soon, I'm just going to go grab some props from there. Because, I don't know, I just like the game to be attractive while I'm working on it. So as soon as possible, I need to grab a few shrubberies and, I don't know, ornamental things and stone walls, just because that makes me happy while I'm developing the game. Even if that stuff isn't going to be in the game, I like to look at pretty things. But yeah, this stuff is all going to be migrated to Fab, and I think it'll all be free until the end of the year, and then you will have to pay for it, which is very disappointing to those of us who are used to having this vast library of free assets, props and materials and all kinds of wonderful things. I love these shrubberies very much, the boxwood shrubberies. I'm gonna, actually not that one. I don't love that one too much. This one I love. And these look really good in VR. It looks like a real shrub. So I'm just gonna throw a few of these around so that I will be filled with joy as I stare at a terrifying megalith of large shapes. Although, you know what? I think my megalophobia might be diminished now, because the other day I was just thinking about that I've been standing in front of a skyscraper before and had no problem with that. That's a pretty big thing. All right, anyway, I'm in shapes again here. There are other ways to access the shapes, but I don't know. I tend to use the content window quite a bit. And I can filter to find all the meshes in my project too, which is convenient. So what if I put this cone into the scene and then scale it really big? Yeah. Already, I don't think I'm going to be that scared of it. Ever since my revelation about the skyscraper, I lived in New York City for many years. I wasn't the least bit scared of any of the buildings. I'm not afraid of a mountain. I guess the thing with megalophobia is if the object is something that shouldn't be large. And then I don't think it's a fear of large objects, it's a fear of something unnaturally large. Like, how did that happen? It's kind of more surprise than anything. I'm going to pick a material now for this cone. I mean, I'm hoping this will remind me of a head, like with a dunce cap on or a party hat on. Will I find that frightening? A giant head? I would find a giant head frightening. This is a sphere in a cone, though. Might not be too bad. All right, I don't know. This wallpaper material is very lame. It's not very exciting. I like it as wallpaper, but not on this cone right now. I'll just check the materials that came with the template. Oh wait, this one looks like the ocean. I forgot. There's this one material that has like emotion in it, like rippling water. Would that be terrifying? I don't think so. It's just kind of weird. It would probably look better on the floor, so it would look like water than going around a cone. All right, now I'm in VR. The ground looks very flat. It doesn't look like a real ground. It looks like just a flat picture of the ground. But wow, the boxwood shrubberies are beautiful. They look so good. They look real. Oh yeah, what about the giant megalith? No, not scary. Not scary, but I'm not gonna get close to it. Nah. All right, this is later. I jumped back into VR after adding some more props. I put some stone walls there, some decorative pots. There's a table. And it's so easy just to drop these things into the scene. Oh yeah, there's a big ice glacier in the background too. And you just put them in and scale them and rotate them, and they're good to go. Amazing. And up close, it continues to look amazingly real. Really good. Of course, right now I can stick my hands through the wall. I'll have to put a collider on there. That will be a whole other topic. But things are looking really good, especially with those settings that I showed you earlier. There's no jagged edges showing, and the shadows look good. They're not jittery or flickering. No, everything is wonderful. In the process of adjusting the position of your objects, you will probably have to play with some of the tools in the top right of the viewport, which control whether the objects are going to snap to the grid or not. And you can toggle those on or off, or you can change the increments So if you really need to fine tune where you want to place the object, you might want to turn off the snapping function. And in fact, that's what I usually do. However, if you're like trying to put together big blocks so they line up properly, you can probably make use of those very well. For me, I don't really use the snapping that much. I just eyeball where I want something to go, and I want it to smoothly move there. But, you know, these tools can be used for certain purposes in certain situations. I'm not that precise of a person, really. Maybe I could learn to be, you never know. And let's see. Wanted to show one more thing about this material. It's double, oh no, you know what? If you can't find the material, there's this little button there you can press and it will bring up the material or whatever it is in the content browser. Very convenient. You don't have to navigate through all the folders. In the normal map area, you can change the number there to make the material look like it has depth. And that works nicely for most games, except for in VR, it really doesn't add the illusion of depth. But usually for games, this is pretty important for the look of a material. And it may help a little in VR, I'll have to find out. I discovered a few more maps because earlier when I searched for maps, I had not clicked on all of the content. And these other maps are in engines, which was a different folder. And that had a few different maps. And here I'm filtering for levels again. I didn't try all of these. And I believe some of them are, yeah, those template ones. If you go to File, New Level, that's where it's getting this open world map from, and the basic map as well. And here was a new one. This is their VR basic. If you wanted, that comes with a sky. But those clouds aren't moving like in the other level. But I think I remember how to make the sky now. Let's create a new level. File, New Level, Blank. And we'll try to make the sky. Now, click into Engine, I believe. Turn off my level filter. And I'm gonna search for sky sphere. There's something called BP, which is blueprint, sky sphere. I just dragged that into the viewport. And now I also have to add a directional light. This little cube with a plus is a drop down, and you can choose a shape from there. That's another way. Or a light. You can choose all kinds of different things there. I'm going to add a directional light. And now I'm going to click on that sky sphere again and come down here, directional light actor, and I'm going to select my directional light, which is the only thing on the list. And there we go. Just like that, we have a very decent looking sky. In the environment light mixer, I'm going to just click all these other elements to see what happens. Very nice. And there are a lot of adjustments you can make to each of those, I'm sure. Maybe you can tweak how many clouds you want. And here I could add the landscape, of course, which we will investigate more in another video. You can sculpt your terrain. Probably don't make hills that look like that. Very symmetrical hill. All right, I don't want to save this level. See you in the next video, maybe about landscapes.